They're not as talkative as you front people. Let's try the back again. Good morning, back people. Good morning. That's better. That was pretty good. It's good to see you guys this morning. Today we're talking about slowing down and celebrating. The truth is, that clip looked like a lot of your lives. We got a really bad buzz up here. You probably know it? It's in my head. I'm just imagining it. Hey, listen, Lord, we live in an adrenaline-filled life. Most of you don't even remember the last meal you ate because you ate it in such a hurry. Some of you got in line at McDonald's, you got your food, and before you got to the traffic light, you had eaten something, and not only that, you looked down and forgot you had already eaten whatever it was that you ate. The wrapper's there, and you think, what happened? Did I eat that? Or you go to get a snack out of the pantry, and you look, and there's the wrapper, and you think, I already ate, I forgot. Because we're in such a hurry, more and more people are eating in the car, more and more people are eating at their desks. By the way, if you eat at your desk, please clean your computer keyboard, I'm just saying. But we don't take time to slow down and enjoy life. To really slow down and taste the food we eat. To really slow down and enjoy the people around. Earlier you said hi to people. But some of you are so goal-oriented, all you could think about was the next person to say hi to. So without going any further, I want you to the people around you, I just want you to give them a fist bump and say good morning to everybody that's around you. Take your time. Enjoy yourself. We get in such a hurry sometimes, we don't enjoy life. Even with fun activities, we don't enjoy them. Even when we sit down to dinner with our families sometimes, we sit down and we're distracted. And because of that, what begins to happen, we forget, first of all, to slow down. But then the second thing that we do is we forget to celebrate all the wonderful things that are happening around us. So today what I want to talk about really is, how can we slow down even when life is busy? How many of you would say you're busy? Yeah, and some of you are retired and you raised your hands. I cannot tell you the number of retired people I've talked to who said to me, I'm busier than I've ever been. And I think, what? There's no hope in that. Don't tell me, lie to me. Tell me that it's great. But why? Because we rush through life. So here's the deal. Don't wait for the day you're seeing in your future to enjoy that day. Enjoy today. Don't wait till the day in the future where, your kids are far enough along, or your job is at this place, or whatever you're working on, or the vacation, or whatever is coming. Don't wait for that day to have joy. Enjoy today. Slow down. Take a breath. Enjoy the food you eat. Listen, if it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, when's the last time you really said, peanut butter? When's the last time we really took time to enjoy? And then the other thing is, how do we celebrate when life is hard? How do we slow down when life is busy? And how do we celebrate when life is hard? But if you and I will learn how to do both of those things, here's what will happen. We'll find joy. Even in the middle of busyness, even in the middle of life that's tough, you will be able to say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I'll rejoice and be glad in it. It didn't say when everything's going well. It didn't say when I like the weather, because I don't lately. Rain after a while, I get discouraged. It's hard. As hyper as I am, I'm just like, all of a sudden I go from Tigger to Eeyore, right? At first I was like bouncing around the house, and then I'm like, it's just going to rain again, right? Now, I'll never forget when I was in high school, I had a teacher named Mr. Admiral. Mr. Admiral was from Holland. Now, I don't do a great impression of Mr. Holland anymore. It's been a long time. But I do remember he was our math teacher, and I remember several things. First of all, he had 3 pairs of pants. And the only reason I know that, I'm a guy, I could care less if he has 3 pairs of pants, but the reason I knew he had 3 pairs of pants is because somebody had written on my desk what color he wore each day and when it cycled back around. So I knew when I came in what day it was based on the color of the pants that Mr. Admiral was going to wear. Now, Mr. Admiral, by the way, just retired like 2 years ago from my school. The other thing I remember about Mr. Admiral is Mr. Admiral had chalk all over him at all times. Now, years ago, Jenna, they had this stuff called chalk. It was before dry erase boards, and instead of sniffing the dry erase markers, we sniffed the ditto paper. But that's another story for another, right? But chalk would get everywhere. It was kind of this. But Mr. Admiral not only had chalk on his hands so that if he did this, the chalk went everywhere. Mr. Admiral, anywhere he sweated, it was yellow with chalk. It was disgusting. Anyway, but my favorite thing that Mr. Admiral would say, and I have never forgotten, I remember Mr. Admiral teaching us, and to this day, if somebody says this word, I repeat it like a parrot who's been taught to speak. Here's what I say. Parallelogram. Today I'm going to teach you about parallelogram. And I'll never forget, he would say it over and over, parallelogram. And it sounded just like that, parallelogram, every time. Now, the only problem with Mr. Admiral, as nice as he was, and what a great teacher he was, is Mr. Admiral was a clueless teacher, and we were not a clueless class. The class I grew up in high school, we lost every substitute every year. The substitutes would refuse to come back and teach my class. I don't think I had a thing to do with it that they knew about. And but Mr. Admiral, he was one of those that would turn around and write on the board. And as he would write on the board, remember you had to get those reinforcement paper things, the white things? Our class figured out that those flew great. And Mr. Admiral would turn around and it would look like the launch of some kind of battle, because people would put the little white things and flick them up, and he would turn around and you just see white flying across the classroom. And it's a beautiful thing. If you get a chance, get those paper reinforcers and flick them. They will fly 30 or 40 feet. Mr. Admiral would turn around. He'd have no clue. Now, don't ask me how. He would turn back around and the floor was white with paper. So one day, Mr. Admiral's teaching and he turns around, and 2 of the really popular girls were sitting on both sides of me, and they wanted to talk to each other. Now, this is before texting. It used to be you had to do this thing called writing a note. So the one girl wrote on a note, and it was like this big, and as she threw it across, for whatever reason, it kind of came, I didn't know, and and I grabbed it out of midair like this. And it was sticking up this high out of my hand. As Mr. Admiral turned around. So he comes walking towards me. Now, I could care less if he takes this note. It's not my note. I have nothing to do with it. I could care less. So Mr. Admiral is walking towards me. He said, I thought that's all a note back here. I'm holding the note up like this. Mr. Admiral walks towards me. He looks at me. He looks down at my desk. I'm holding it right here. He pats my desk like somehow it's some kind of camouflage note that has somehow blended into the desk. He pats my desk. Turns around, walks back to the board and says, oh, I thought I saw a note. And I passed the note on to the girl. Now, here's what happened. He got so busy, so focused on where he thought the note was, he didn't back up to really, it's right here. Listen, so many of us are going through life and we're so focused on a problem that we have, or an issue that we have, or trying to get. Listen, if spacemen showed up on Earth, they would think that our goal in life is to get from one place to the other, or to get somebody from one place to the other. They would think that's our goal, because that's most of what we think about, is how to get from one place or one thing or one activity to the other. And we are going through life breathing as fast as we can, and just like the video, we're running over obstacles, and we think it's all about just faster and more, and we're miserable because we're not taking time to really enjoy all that God has provided for us. So let's look at 3 things today that I hope will help you, if you already have joy, to find a little more joy. If you've lost your joy, to get your joy back. And to take some time just to say, God, you know what? I want to enjoy life again. I want to enjoy a hamburger again. God, I want to enjoy my grandchildren again. I want to enjoy my nephews and nieces again. I want to enjoy that grumpy neighbor that I like to make fun of. I want to enjoy making fun of them tomorrow when I see them outside pulling the weeds out of their yard that they haven't cut. Number one, Jesus took time to retreat. Jesus took time to retreat. When's the last time you took time to just take a breath, to retreat, even a few minutes? Here's what it says in Mark 6, 39 to 46. And by the way, when you're reading a story, a lot of times the whole point of the story is the end of the story. So I want you to listen to this story. Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Green grass and all the people with all, bright clothes, all sitting in groups of 50 and 100 were getting ready there. So they sat down in groups of 100 and 50s. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking into heaven, he gave thanks, broke the loaves, then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. When's the last time you've been satisfied? And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had eaten was 5,000. Now, time out. Most people will stop right there with this story and talk about the miracle. But there's a couple things that commentators tell us. Number one, they think that after this miracle, the people wanted Jesus to be their king. The people now wanted to promote Jesus. Hey, if he can do this awesome stuff, why don't you take over and kick Rome out? That's what they thought the Messiah was going to do. So what did Jesus do after a super busy day? A day where everybody was pulling on him. Here we go. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him into Bethsaida. Listen to this. While he dismissed the crowd. So Jesus was the one looking at people going, okay, bye-bye. Okay, thanks for coming. No, Jesus, we just have to ask you, thanks for coming. You have a great trip home. Be safe on your way, like the person at the door on the airplane, right? Okay, bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye. 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 It says Jesus dismissed them, so Jesus was like, okay, have a good trip home. Good to see you. He's already sent the disciples away, and here he is sending everybody home. Time to go home. Time to go home. I remember working maintenance at a church, and people wouldn't leave, and I had to turn off the power. So I would sing, go home. I am so weary, go home. If you don't know that song, it's an old hymn that says, come home. I made it go home. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. Some of our stories end, they lived happily ever after. This story ends with, he went up on a mountainside to pray. Did you know every day as you go through life, you've got things pulling on you. You've got people pulling on you for your attention. You have things that break in your house pulling on you. You've got grumpiness sometimes if you don't like the weather pulling on you. You've got selfishness pulling on you to become more selfish and more self-centered. That old sin nature attacks us. We get irritated with other people. We get irritated with ourselves. And Jesus took time out to pray. To not only talk to God, but to listen to God. To get still and to say, God, speak to me. He took time to reset. Now, if you have a Windows computer, you reset by pushing Control, Alternate, and Delete. And every once in a while you have to do that, right? Because all of a sudden it just kind of looks at you and says, nah. All of us need to realize that sometimes we all need to reset. All of us need to reset. We need to spend some time to slow down, to get into the Bible, to spend some time in prayer every day so that we can push away that selfish gravity, so we can push away those negative thoughts that tend to overpower us on good days and on bad days. If you think this was the only time, Mark 1 points out that it was pretty common. It was one of the first things Mark said in chapter 1, verse 35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, Everyone is looking for you. A slight exaggeration, because not everyone was looking for him. There are a lot of people looking for him, but everyone, the pressure was on. Jesus had thousands and thousands of people. There were days, and this was one of those days, where people had brought the sick from all over the place. He had healed them till late at night. And then he went to pray, and the next day, of course, those people who had now come from far away were saying, come heal our children. And the Bible says that he went somewhere else. So how do you know what God wants you to do? You have to spend time with him. Do you have a time, a quiet time, a time to get quiet before God? I encourage you, if you don't spend time with the Lord, hey, tomorrow morning, this week, make a commitment to get up 15 minutes early. Now, maybe for some of you, you are not morning people. You get out of bed at 7 and you wake up at 11, right? Okay? You might want to do it at night, but for most people, the morning's the best time. Set your alarm just 15 minutes early. Spend a few minutes in the Bible, but even before you pray, before you read the Bible, say to God, God, would you speak to me as I read your word? Because the truth is, just like we eat our food, and just like we talk to our children, we can rush through reading the Bible, check it off of our list, and have no idea what we just read. You can sit in a sermon and leave here today and have no idea what I was talking about because your brain has already moved on. You're somewhere else. Why? Because we have iPads and iPhones and computers. And right now, some of you are like wondering how somebody's Facebook status is doing. We have to take time to evaluate, to look at our time, to look at our budgets, to look at our time with the Lord and say, God, examine my heart. John Ortberg says this, as much as we complain about it, we are drawn to hurry. It makes us feel important. It keeps the adrenaline pumping. It means we don't have to look too closely at the heart or life. Number 2, busyness is not next to godliness. Now, you can take this next story way too far. And taking it way too far means, for some of you, an excuse to be lazy. I don't think we have very many lazy people at our church, but you may know somebody who loves any time that they hear about doing something to say, oh, I just don't want to get overwhelmed. And you think, yeah, of course you don't want to get overwhelmed. You don't do anything. If you help people, if you go out of your way to be a blessing to people, there's going to be times that you're tired. If you never are a little bit tired, if you never are a little bit frustrated, then you probably haven't worked with people very much. When you go out of your way, there are times, even Jesus was tired. The Bible says he was tired from his journey, and yet he still ministered. So it's not about just saying, I'm just going to lay back and not do anything. The Bible does not call you to be a monk in a monastery, but it calls us to love others. But how we do that is a big deal. So I want to read the story of Mary and Martha. Luke 10, 38-42 says this. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. This word distracted means to draw the face around. It means to do this. It's like the witch from Wizard of Oz. You remember the witch from Wizard of Oz? I'll get you, my pretty. Okay? So that's the face that Martha's making. Why? Because she's ticked off at her sister. How dare her sister? You can just see her walking through and sitting at the table and looking at her sister. So if she finally gets mad enough, she yells at Jesus, which is never a good thing. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Exclamation point on this next one. Tell her to help me. She's looking at Jesus going, do you not notice what's going on here? Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. This word here, can we just mute all the channels except my mic, or is it my mic making that noise? Okay. Mary has chosen what is better. That literally means Mary has chosen the better platter. It literally means that you think you're doing important things by setting the table. You think you're doing important things because you're doing all this, but the truth is the one sitting at my feet has chosen better. Now, Jesus wasn't telling Mary, don't do what you're doing. But what he was telling her is don't act like you're acting. Don't get so concerned about what everybody else is doing that you're not focusing on the best thing. Don't go and help somebody and the whole time you're helping them complain about helping them. You ever had somebody do that? You ever had somebody give you something and they complain about giving it to you? Well, then take it back. I don't want it. Thanks so much. And that's what Jesus was saying here. You've got me over the house and you're running around going, and who wants somebody like that setting the table for them? Hey, come over to Thanksgiving dinner. Okay. Like, I think I'd like to have Thanksgiving dinner somewhere else. One of my favorite movies has a great line. It's this movie right here. Do you know this movie? Yeah. Have you seen Hook? How many of you have seen this movie? There's a scene in this movie where he's supposed to be on vacation, and Peter Pan continues to answer the phone. He continues to answer the phone. Well, you don't know he's Peter Pan yet. You're kind of figuring it out. And his wife finally grabs the phone, and she throws it out the window. And I'll never forget this. Kyle was not born yet. It was a few months before he was born. But I've never forgotten this line from the movie. She says, you know, the kids are growing up. There's going to be a day that you're going to be begging them to spend time with you. And then he says this, and you're missing it. Listen, quit missing it. And I'm not just talking about your children. I'm not just talking about your nephews. I'm talking about life. What are we so busy doing that we're missing the important things? Now, I know you're busy, but is there anything, listen, can we watch a little less TV and spend some more time in the Bible? Can we watch a little less TV or do a little less of our own activity to spend a little extra time with somebody who needs it? What if every single week we just took time to say, God, I want to do the most important things? In just a few weeks, we've got a fall festival coming up here. I want to tell you it's a very important thing. We need your help. We're going to have all kind of cool activities. We're going to be doing temporary tattoos with a spray gun thing. It's really cool, and hopefully they're temporary. And that's good. Anyway, but we've got bouncy things. We're going to do fair games. They're going to have this one game where you do the ball, and you have to get to go as far as you can without a drop. We've rented real fair games. We've got popcorn and snow cones. It's going to be awesome. We've got over 100 signs that we're going to put all over the community to drive the community crazy so people complain about us putting signs up. It'll be awesome. I'm going to give you signs. You can put 4 in your yard. Anyway, so all of that. But here's the deal. Should we just say, well, you know what? I just want to relax and focus on Jesus. Jesus went out of his way to serve. I want to encourage you, go out of your way to do something, to spend an hour or 2 or 3 that day and say, you know what? I want to serve the community. Why? Because somebody may come with their children who hasn't been to church in years, and they meet you crazy people. And they say, you know what? I fit in with these crazy people. I might come to church here, and they may show up for church. Al, I'm sorry I looked at you when I said crazy. But they might show up for church, and then they might come to know God for eternity. And one day you and I might be sitting in heaven, which is much more important than that. That's the whole purpose. It's the reason we serve. It's the reason we go out of our way. It's the reason we sacrifice our lives for others. Psalms 46:10 says this. Be still and know that I am God. I'll be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. When's the last time you just got still and said, God, what do you want me to do? What really matters? True joy, as it turns out, comes only to those who have devoted their lives to something greater than personal happiness. If we don't rejoice today, we will not rejoice at all. If we wait until conditions are perfect, we will still be waiting. If we're going to rejoice, it must be in this day. This is the day the Lord has made. And finally today, celebrating gives us joy. Not only just slowing down and paying attention and enjoying the things around us, taking time to celebrate and be thankful. Have you ever met an ungrateful child? You ever been somewhere and you got around a child and you realized that they weren't grateful for anything, that no matter what they got, they just expected it? And after a while, you were just kind of like, you know, that child's driving me crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. Do you know there's adults that are that way too? That no matter what you do, they expect a little bit more. And here's the deal, though. The way that we overcome that in our own lives. I don't think anybody who's that way wakes up in the morning going, you know, I'm an ungrateful person. You know, I'm that mean neighbor. That's me. I don't think anybody wakes up thinking that. But what happens? We quit becoming grateful and we quit becoming thankful. We don't take time to sing in the rain. We just complain about it. Nehemiah 8, 9 to 12, the people found the law, and as they found the law, they realized they were blowing it. And so they were upset, and they began weeping. And here's what happens in this chapter, which I think is great for us. Then Nehemiah, the governor, Ezra the priest, and teacher of the law, and the Levites who were instructing the people, said to them all, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For all the people had been weeping as they listened to the words of the law. Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food." When's the last time you did that? And sweet drinks. And send some of those who have nothing prepared. That basically, don't only just do it for yourself, give away. Because, by the way, if you're going to have joy, that's another thing you have to do. You have to give away some of what you have. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. The Levites calmed all the people, saying, "Be still, for this is a holy day. Do not grieve." Then all the people went away, listen to this, to eat and to drink, to send portions of food, and to celebrate. We're going to do that in November together. We're going to celebrate what God's done, the fall festival, in this campaign. We're going to celebrate together and say all the things God did, because it's important to celebrate. But we really should do that every day, because they understood the words that had been made known to him. Is God your strength? Listen, if you wake up in the morning and you find that you're grumpy and you're self-centered, we all get that way. And maybe you're in pain. Maybe you're struggling with a physical or an emotional pain. Maybe somebody did something to hurt you. Maybe you're struggling in an area. Listen, take time just to be thankful and celebrate what God's done. It may be that when it's raining and you're like me and you start becoming Eeyore, always be, that you just, instead of getting busy doing stuff, you just walk outside and you look at the rain and you say, "God, thank you for the puddles. I remember when I was little, I used to love this. What happened to me? God, I used to love to walk in the rain. I used to love to just go outside when it was raining. I loved to watch what happened that all of a sudden I became an adult and I don't celebrate the things I used to celebrate anymore. God, would you help me to celebrate again?" He gave us two commands: love God and love people. You can't love God if you don't get still enough to spend time and listen to him. And you can't love people if you don't spend enough time to listen, to look, to go out of your way to sacrifice, to be a blessing to that person around you. Because as you celebrate, one of the things that happens is you begin to give away that joy because it overflows from your life. John 15, Jesus said this, "As the Father has loved me, so I've loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you'll remain in my love, just as I've kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I've told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be" what? Complete. Complete joy. Does that mean life will always be easy? No, it won't. Does that mean everything's going to go the way you want it to? Like you have a plan in your head and everything's going to go that way, and if everything goes that way, then you're happy? No. Joy is not dependent on circumstances. It's not dependent on problems or lack of problems. Joy is when you and I celebrate, we slow down, and we say, "God, thank you for each and every little thing you've given me." So that today when you leave here, and a little bit later maybe you eat lunch, that no matter whether your lunch is a steak, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or some potato chips, or a cracker, that we'll take time to even say, "God, thank you for what you've given to me." And whoever you see this afternoon, that you'll thank God for who they are. For that person who's a little bit grumpy, that you'll say, "God, would you help me somehow, for that joy that you've put in me, somehow to be a blessing to that grumpy, self-centered person." I don't know about you, but I don't want my life to be like that Indiana Jones video where it just goes faster and faster and faster. No matter what I do, people aren't happy anyway, and I just go faster. Can we slow down and just say, "God, I want to celebrate. I want to spend time with you." If you're here today and you've never given your life to Christ, maybe you know about it, maybe you're watching online and you've never given your life to Christ, you can do that today, right where you're at. You say, Jesus, I know that you died for me. You gave your life for me. You sacrificed your life for me. And I'm a sinner. I'm messed up. And I want to surrender. I want to give my life to you. That's what it means to be a Christian. You can do it by praying a prayer, but the Bible never says you pray a prayer to become a Christian. It's basically a heart change where you say, God, I'm tired of running this whole deal myself. I want to let you run it. I surrender my life to you. If you're here today and you want to talk about that after the service, I'll be here to talk to you. Maybe you're here today and you're a Christian, but the truth is you've allowed that selfish, negative, and everything else gravity to pull on you, and you haven't celebrated in a while. I just want to encourage you to make a new commitment. God, would you remind me all week by your Holy Spirit to have joy and to celebrate every day, to spend time with you every morning. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, thank you for today. I thank you for your